I think we were lucky in Dubai. We got introduced to NFT before the NFT craze happened. So we started doing educational classes. We started introducing NFT projects and NFT artists way before NFT became a thing. As soon as CryptoKitties came out, we started doing educational classes in the blockchain center about that aspect of non-fungible tokens. And then we had the fortune of having artists as soon as old as 2017 come into Dubai and exhibit their art in Dubai. So the regulators and also the government departments were exposed to this kind of even we had something called stable art, which is each art piece is like one Bitcoin. And those kind of things we got exposed to very early. As I said, Dubai is always at the forefront of these things. And when we had art exhibits as well in Dubai, some of those artists did NFTs as well, and they showed them here in Dubai. So we got exposed to this, but the aspect of the art or the creative side of it is one aspect. The monetary aspect of it and how this art piece is unique and the non-fungibility aspect of it and the auction aspect of it and that kind of stuff, we're still getting our heads around how to regulate this. I don't think anybody in the world have regulated the auction market for NFTs as of yet, and we are trying really hard here in Dubai and the UAE to get our heads around it. But it's a multi-level and very complex kind of environment to regulate, and it's going to be a challenge. But we're up for the challenge, and we want to be experimenting with this kind of technology from the regulatory perspective, as well as on the actual creative and enablement of liquidity to these kind of ecosystems as well. It's not limited to art; it's limited to everything that's non-fungible. It could be real life items like real estate. It could be jewelry like we have with ice caps. It could be anything.
Yeah, you mean ice cap, the diamonds. Yeah, that's space. And so we work with regulators around the world and jurisdictions around the world. I definitely have not seen a jurisdiction that is taking up the challenge right now of building NFT regulation. I think that most regulators are focused on DeFi, which happened, and I guess the craze happened before NFTs. Then when you think about yield-producing NFTs, like NFTs that represent ownership DAOs or represent cash flow-producing assets through yields, to consider thinking about those things from a regulatory perspective, very interesting mental hurdle.
Yeah, we tried to dissect it little by little. Like ice caps was easier. And when we showed it to the regulators, first of all, they said, okay, I don't think we can regulate this. And then we took it to the regulation lab, and the regulation lab said, okay, let's invite the involved stakeholders. And when we talked to them, some of them took a hands-off approach. Some of them said, okay, we want to be involved with this and regulate it. At the end of the day, we were able to get a license, and that license we can actually practice with it. And then the regulators will monitor this project specifically and monitor other projects that come in NFTs that are less complex than things that are like lending of NFT or using it as collateral. When you add complexity, you introduce a lot of variables that are uncontrollable. But with diamonds, I think this is the smallest and the simplest and the most straightforward kind of approach for NFTs. It's just a proof of ownership. But if you get to art, which is the value is not known, this could be sold for $1 or $1 million. You introduce a lot of risk for regulators.
Yeah, I actually met Jacques as he was expanding to Dubai, in the audience, so Ice Cap, as he was expanding to Dubai and going through the regulatory process, which I think you guys are the first ones in the world that have gotten that, so congratulations. But the use case of authenticating an asset like diamonds or an asset like real estate, as you mentioned, complicating it with lending or fractionalized ownership, which is the future of blockchain. I think anyone would agree with that. Not that NFTs are NFTs as well, but they'll have non-fungible representation of real estate and diamonds. And if the individual wants to fractionalize it, they'll be, well,
It's counterintuitive because NFTs are non-divisible. So when you introduce that, you lose the whole regulator again.
Right. It complicates the regulatory structure, but in theory, you could have an NFT with a like Doge NFT. You see that was auctioned for $60 million, and then immediately became a $600 million meme artwork with the dog coin or something that was, anyways, crazy stats. But the use case of...
And these are the use cases that really, scare the regulators.
Yeah, the use case of authenticating ownership of a physical asset like diamonds, or putting the deed to real estate or cars on the blockchain, much simpler to introduce to the market. It's using the existing regulatory framework, it's just putting that ownership on the blockchain to ensure that you are the rightful owner of the asset.
Proof of ownership is what we aim for, and I think this is the simplest NFT use case, and this is what you should, bite size. You should start with always bite size regulations, and I think, and then when you do one at a time, you get much better momentum. And then when you go to the regulators, when they understand the first aspect, they take care of that, and then the second level, third level. And it's always going to be lagging behind, and it's always going to be careful, and that's by design. But it's always better to do it with the simplest use cases moving forward.
Yeah, so everyone understands the market, they get exposure to the market, they get comfortable with the market, and then the market is going in a lot of directions. So those directions start to get exciting, but more complicated. To shift up the discussion a little bit, Dr. Marwan, you're familiar with the metaverse, I imagine, right? Just by show of hands, who's familiar with the metaverse? So do you mind just starting by defining it for the audience?
There's so many definitions, but it's basically a virtual world where you can have your assets, just like a physical asset, with the NFT angle added to it. You can own a car or a piece of land or a piece of art in a metaverse, and in that particular metaverse, you cannot have a duplicate of that because it has the NFT signature behind it, and you cannot upload the similar items. We don't prove ownership to it. It's the same thing when you try to change, and I think Twitter and other social media outlets will start doing this as well for avatar pictures. You can, unless you can prove the ownership of that avatar picture, you cannot upload it.
Twitter actually just introduced that. You see, so just for the audience, that actually is at market now, where because there was all of these people that were putting CryptoPunks or Bored Apes or avatar pictures as their profile pictures, as just copy and pasting it, which I think you actually can still do.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You can
but
still do it, even though it was introduced as a way of.
But if you don't have the Ethereum verified tag, then you're it's very uncool to steal someone's identity. And essentially, avatar pictures are someone's digital identity, and that individual can actually build the value into the avatar by, Jay-Z is on stage with his avatar. It's building tremendous value to his specific punk, as opposed to all the other ones.
It's a status symbol, whether it's in the metaverse or in real life. There are things that are cross, worlds. I never thought I would be seeing this on stage, but we have items right now that are cross-universe, right? In the real world plus the metaverse, and multiple metaverses also, not even one metaverse. So there's like unlimited dimensions, and it's only limited by your imagination.
I think the metaverse is the next frontier of the internet, and I really like considering it as all internet infrastructure we have today is two-dimensional. So phones, computers, televisions, it's all X and Y coordinates. So you can put pictures or you can put text, but you can't create an experience. Metaverse is just the three-dimensional internet where now we can have a stage, chairs, have our avatars that are unique to us, and we can actually have this conversation geared in the virtual world, which is use cases there are pretty astounding and revolutionary.
And we've been trying to do this for a long time. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but we've been trying to build the metaverse and 3D, browsing of the internet even for a really, really long time. In the beginning of the internet, instead of HTML, there was like a 3D ML or something like this, a standard that you can develop web pages in 3D, and the technology was not there at that time as well. Even with the introduction of 3D glasses, we are still not there 100%. We didn't reach this mass adoption yet. But catalysts like NFTs and cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, and also things like Unreal Engine and other 3D building software, and even the processing speed and memory that we have around our computers, and also things like cloud technology and that kind of stuff, they will all be playing their part in making this a reality. And we will reach, like Elon Musk said this, not me, we will reach a point where you cannot distinguish between real life and the metaverse.
The singularity, that is a crazy moment. So I had the